Welcome to the Canada Specialist Program webinar series. I am joined by Sean, our local representative for Tourism Yukon. Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, thank you, Charlie. Yeah, sun is shining and yeah, ready to go and talk a little bit about the Yukon.
Sean, we always love hearing about the Yukon, such a spectacular destination. I know you're going to talk a little bit about the Northern Lights today, because obviously that's a real bucket list reason to travel to the Yukon. And just to touch on the fact that the solar max, so the best times to see the Northern Lights, the time of good activity, we're in that period right now, right?
Yeah, that's correct, Charlie. So the Northern Lights or the Aurora Borealis runs on a cycle, and it's about 11 years, though. Sometimes it's 12 years, sometimes it's 10, 9, etc. And it basically means that during the high parts of the cycle, uh, the Northern Lights are the most prominent, the most vibrant. There's a lot of solar activity happening, and that's what's causing the lights to dance and become incredibly bright. And it is a cycle, so it's not this, it's like that. So it means that as we're going around with the solar cycle reaching its maximum, which the maximum is a little bit unsure exactly on the exact month, but it's either this year or some forecasts are for next year. It does mean that even if you go just before or just after or even a couple of years after, you're still actually in the high peak area because it goes around like this. It doesn't go up and down. So that's an important point to make. If clients are booked and they get some news that the solar cycle peaked a month earlier, doesn't mean the Northern Lights suddenly went away. They're still at the very high point of the cycle. So they'll still get some amazing Northern Light potential.
Yeah, so basically now in the next few years is a great time for the
Exactly.
Northern Lights. So tell your clients to go. Okay, Sean, well, thank you. I will let you carry on with your update. Please take it away.
Thank you very much, Charlie. I'm just going to start my timer here so I don't go over and incur the wrath of Charlie. So thank you very much, everybody. Good morning again. Welcome to the Yukon. I want to start off a little bit with just some basic orientation as I do for every webinar presentation. Where is the Yukon? We are in Canada, of course. We're in the north west of Canada, high up in the north, right next to Alaska. You can see on the map there some of the great air links that we do have. It's important to note we're about a 15.5 hour flight to Vancouver. Then it's about 2 hours, 20 minutes to Whitehorse. The connections are pretty good from Vancouver, either through Air Canada or Air North, which is Air North is Yukon's territorial airline, really great airline. And of course, you can also get to the Yukon by cruising or even by road. Yukon is a very big place, and that's also important to recognize because you won't be able to do everything in a few days. Most people will fly into Whitehorse, which is the center and the gateway, international gateway. And then they will spend quite a bit of time in Whitehorse usually because there are a lot of different activities and attractions and things to see, usually within about half an hour, 40 minutes of Whitehorse. But then people may want to go further afield, places like Dawson City, Carcross. There's also Kluane National Park. And as I mentioned, cruising as well, particularly through the gateway of cruising, which is Skagway, which is in the US. But there's some great train trips and also driving through to connect into Whitehorse and Carcross there. So Whitehorse itself, we call it the Wilderness City. As you can see from the photograph, there's a great photo of the Northern Lights in the background there. When we say city, it's pretty low scale. You're not going to find any skyscrapers or anything like that in Whitehorse. It's got a very much village feel about it. There's lots of great restaurants there, lots of great cafes. There's a really nice river that runs to the side of the town. It's a really good way to explore the Yukon. There's a number of hotel properties located there, and the hotel properties do pickups for various tours that you can do, including Northern Lights tours and other adventure-style activities. Which brings me on to the Northern Lights. So it is one of the key attractions for the Yukon. It is important to mention as well, though, that don't base your itinerary just around the Northern Lights because, you know, nature is a fickle thing. We can have cloud cover. We can have, you know, lots of different atmospheric phenomenons which do interfere with the lights. So one of the great things about going to the Yukon is there's so much to do outside the Northern Lights as well. With that being said, for a Northern Lights itinerary, we do recommend people arrive late August to mid-April because that's when the light or that's when the night is the most dark. We recommend at least 3 to 4 nights. But I would say probably, yeah, 5 nights is probably better with 2 to 3 nights viewing because usually the tours will finish at about 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's a bit more challenging if you're trying to do day activities as well. Most tours are based in Whitehorse, but now we also have tours in Dawson City as well. Our viewing sites are approximately 20 minutes from town. If you are staying in a lodge, it's actually the ideal situation for doing day and night activities because you don't necessarily need to stay up to 2 a.m. in the morning. You can experience the lights when they're out and then go straight back to bed or wake up for the lights. Having said that, the tours themselves do offer something quite nice, which is they have specialist guides there who can help you with photography. They have heated yurts. They will do presentations on the lights and how it's all, you know, how it comes about from a science point of view, but also history of the, you know, of the Northern Lights and tourism in the Yukon and so forth. So the tours as well are also quite worthwhile. Just before I jump into hotels, one thing I should mention is that you do need to book winter clothing hire for your clients. The ski gear that we typically use in Australia or New Zealand will not be warm enough for the -20 degrees conditions and -30 sometimes that can be found in winter during the nighttime in the Yukon. During the daytime, the weather can be quite a bit milder, but during the night, it can be very cold. So make sure you book in that, that winter clothing, and that can be organised through various wholesalers in Australia. Accommodation. As I mentioned, we have a lot of accommodation in the Yukon, from hotels to cabins. We have a couple of 4-star properties, the Raven Inn, and there's also a Hyatt on its way, and also a number of camping options as well. Some of the activities, the dog sledding is very, very popular throughout the Yukon. As I said, there's a number of dog sledding operators and tours within about 20, 30 minutes from accommodation. So it's very accessible. If you're in a cabin, sometimes you can actually do your dog sledding directly from your cabin door. So it's quite a cool way of experiencing things. Snowmobiling and snowshoeing is also very popular. Ice fishing as well. We have the Eclipse Hot Springs, which is just out of Whitehorse. That's a really fantastic way to relax in the snow, particularly in wintertime. Of course, it is open late, so there is a possibility of seeing the Northern Lights while you're actually relaxing in the hot springs. There are also spa facilities such as massages, various types of treatments and so forth available there. The Yukon Wildlife Preserve is very popular both in summer and in wintertime. Has a number of different animals, and it's a free roaming environment. So there is fences obviously to protect you from the animals because they are wild, but they're not in cages. They're in large enclosures, which I think is a really great thing. Lumen Studios, which is in Whitehorse. It's actually a glass blowing, and it's run by locals, and it's a really fun activity. There's a cool cafe next to it. It is a great way to meet the locals in the Yukon. So I'd encourage, you know, just your clients, if they're in Whitehorse town, just to drop by. It only takes an hour and they get to bring home with them a cool memento from the Yukon. As I mentioned, temperatures before, do need to be mindful. During wintertime, it is very cold, particularly with that winter clothing rental. Summertime, everything changes. We are now moving into a time when the sun is at its highest. During June, we can actually have the summer solstice. So that would mean that there is actually no darkness in the Yukon. So midnight, we call it the land of the midnight sun. You will be able to, walk out of your hotel, or hopefully you haven't been in a bar till midnight, but walk out of your bar if you are there, and experiencing sunshine. It's quite incredible. And it's just a way to experience all the wilderness to the max because you get so much sunlight there. During the summer, it is all about nature and outdoor activities. So we have lots of different things. Obviously, hiking is a big thing, canoeing, we have horseback riding, camping, fishing. There's also a number of cultural tours you can do, particularly connecting with the Yukon First Nations. We also have a number of foraging activities where you get to pick Yukon fruits and berries and things and learn about, that type of history of the Yukon in terms of foraging and so forth. We also have the White Pass and Yukon Route train, which is run during the warmer months. That runs through to Skagway, Alaska. It follows the route that the Stampeders took to get to Dawson City for the gold rush, which you may have heard of the book Call of the Wild or the movie Call of the Wild. All talks about this story about people and the hardships they face going over the mountains to make it to Dawson to hopefully strike it rich. Some of the photos there you can see on the train. Now, when we're talking about beyond the Whitehorse, there is a number of different centres and locations in the Yukon, which is fantastic. I want to just sort of mention a few. So we said Dawson City, which is an hour, 10 minutes in flying and 5 to 6 hours drive. There's also a bus, which you can also take up there. It's called the Husky Bus. It is important during winter time, we don't recommend driving just because you are talking winter conditions below freezing. Yukon's wild. There's not much mobile reception outside of the major towns and centres. So you really need to be very experienced in winter driving. But summertime is fantastic for driving. So self-drive is very popular, and also various coach touring options as well. It's a good way to explore the Yukon. Dawson City is definitely one of the highlights. Carcross is only 50 minutes from Whitehorse. There's also Killarney National Park as well. And this, just introduces into our whole scenic drives. On our website, you'll find a number of different routes that are available for scenic drives. There's a number of rental options. We also have the Jeeps, which you can see there in the picture with the annexes, which is a cool way to camp. That's a company called Overland Yukon that runs that one. Killarney National Park is 1.5 to 2 hour drive from Whitehorse. It is the home of some of the highest mountains in the Yukon. And yes, called the St. Elias Mountain Range. And it also includes Mount Logan, which is the tallest mountain in Canada. We do recommend flight seeing as one of the key ways to experience the St. Elias Mountains and Mount Logan, because it's really spectacular. You can see these ice fields, from above. It's pretty spectacular. Moving on to Dawson now. So Dawson is this really great historical town. It was the centre of the Klondike and the Gold Rush. It does have some fantastic historical buildings. The hotels are historical. Pretty much everything in the town is, as you see from these photographs, it's like stepping into the Old West, which is really cool. Lots of Gold Rush activities in terms of touring and seeing historical sites. Some of the buildings are built on permafrost as well, so you can see some of them are have had to have said, look, we can't actually allow you to occupy those buildings anymore because the building is sunk. Thankfully, they have learnt how to construct buildings in the permafrost now with no ill effects. We also have Diamond Tooth Gertie's Casino, which is not your typical casino. It has some great musical shows, and it's more of an experience rather than a casino. Okay, just quickly as well, now I'm running out a little bit out of time. Tombstone Territorial Park, 1.5 hours drive from Dawson. It is like a Patagonia of the north. It's really quite spectacular. Lots of different activities you can do, hiking, multi-day hiking as well, various different types of tours, flight seeing, helicopter tours and so forth. You have the fall colours in late August, which is really spectacular as well. Also, you can continue on to the Arctic from Dawson. So you've got the Arctic Circle, which is pretty incredible. I think that will just about wrap me up in terms of the content. If you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat box and I'll help to answer it if I can. Thank you, Charlie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. Perfect timing. Nice one.
Yeah, I was getting a bit worried there for a moment, but I managed to make those in the end.
It's a short space of time to fit in a lot of information, and the seasons, just a completely different destination in the summer than in the winter as well, right? So
Absolutely, absolutely.